On the news tonight, Jamb set 150 as cut-off mark for universities admission. Labour Party to expel its 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi. Senate denies snubbing bills, says no garbage in, garbage out. And on the foreign scene, President Macron says the UK and France will make tangible results on migration as it begins a state visit. Good evening. This is News at 7 on Western Spring Television. I am Femi Ojo. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, Jamb, has set 150 as the cut-off mark for admission into universities in the country. The body made the decision today during the 2025 policy meeting on admissions held at the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center in Abuja. The body also set the cut-off mark for colleges for nursing at 140, colleges of agriculture 100, and colleges of education 100. Earlier, the registrar, Jamb registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede said, while individual universities may have its own cut-off, no university is allowed to admit any candidate that scores lower than Jamb's cut-off.
Every institution is at liberty to determine its own minimum scores acceptable to it. It can be 300, it can be 350. Similarly, DE acceptable to you. But the DE cannot be less than 2 out of 16. You know, EE is 2 and it's acceptable. But somebody who has AAA has 16. So their minimum acceptable for direct entry is 2 points. In the same vein, no institution can accept anybody to transfer to it if it does not meet that requirement. No institution will be allowed to admit any candidate whose total score is below the minimum admissible score proposed by the institution and approved by this policy meeting. Every institution should maintain its own approved minimum. That is, University of Ibadan will say, my minimum is 200. It cannot admit 199. Even if we agree that the minimum here is 140. For an African university says my minimum is 250 or 225, I will see it now. They cannot admit 224. You have your own policy, you cannot take below it. But nobody can take below the minimum that we decide here. No institution will be allowed to recommend or admit any candidate who is below the minimum admissible.
In the meantime, the federal government has formally set 16 years as the minimum age for admission into Nigeria's tertiary institutions. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa announced this during the 2025 policy meeting at the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board Jamb held in Abuja today. Dr. Alausa, while declaring the meeting open, emphasized that the age benchmark is now official and non-negotiable, warning that any admission carried out outside the central admissions processing system would be considered illegal. The minister further stated that heads of institutions found culpable of admission fraud or circumventing costs would be prosecuted in accordance with the law. The annual policy meeting sets guidelines for the conduct of admission into universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education for the coming academic session.
Admission conducted outside CAPS, regardless of its intentions, is illegal. Any admission conducted outside CAP is illegal. Both institutions and the candidates involved in such practices will be held accountable. Sanctions may include the withdrawal of the institutional license, as well as the removal or with prosecution of culpable officers of governing council or governing council's members. I urge vice chancellors, rectors, provosts, governing councils, and senate of institutions to step up the oversight functions to prevent unauthorized practices. The ministry, in collaboration with Jamb, will monitor compliance closely and take necessary. The entry age for admission into tertiary institution is now officially pegged at 16 years. It was reduced from 18, which was to be effective from this year exercise, hence the needs for this compliance. This policy decision reflects a balance between cognitive maturity and academic preparedness. 16 is not negotiable. 16 years of age as admission, as the official age, is non-negotiable. Institutions are hereby directed to ensure strict compliance. We understand there may be a few exceptional cases, and provisions have already been made for legitimate exceptions, especially for gifted children or those with accelerated educational pathways. However, this must be clearly demonstrated and documented, and it must be.
Turning to politics, the governor of Katsina State, Dikko Rada, has dismissed the newly formed coalition of political parties and described those behind it as disgruntled persons who are unhappy because they are not in government. The governor stated this in a news chart this morning, saying the time for deceiving Nigerians is over, noting that the coalition backers did nothing when they were in government and now they are shouting because they are out of government. The coalition of opposition political leaders last week adopted the African Democratic Congress ADC after months of talks. It appointed a former Senate President David Mark as interim national chairman, a former Minister of Interior Rauf Argbeshola as secretary. The unveiling of the platform has since triggered a barrage of reactions from politicians, with the Katsina State governor, the latest high-profile personality, to question the coalition's sincerity. Governor Rada challenged the group to come out with its agenda for the country to sell itself to Nigerians.
What can we do to salvage that situation? What can we do? That is why as subnational we are bringing about so many social programs to alleviate the sufferings of the people. And we realize that in Katsina State, our major thing to revive any economy in the state is to empower our farmers, which are 90% of our population. And this is what we have been investing as a government to try to subsidize input to the farmers, to try to provide machineries to the farmers, to try to provide extension services to the farmers. Once we are able to do that, we will have food security. Once a common man has food, he doesn't have anything to worry. He concentrates on what he's doing and his businesses, and we are providing opportunity and funding for support of MSME, support of agri-businesses, so that at least, and we are training our teaming youth now, graduate into agricultural production in different aspects, and we are training them for 6 months, within which we will graduate them, give them land, give them money to put up their businesses, and be influence of labors. That is the only way we can rejuvenate the economy. But this coalition that we are talking about in Nigeria, what is new to Nigerians about it? Who are these people into this coalition? Why are they not in another coalition before? What are they going to come and do different from what is happening in the country now? Can they promise Nigerians that they are going to bring about, they will bring the subsidy, fuel subsidy? Let them come out and tell Nigerians, those who want to contest for president under this coalition, let them come and tell Nigerians, are they going to bring subsidy back? And if they are going to bring subsidy back, let them tell Nigerians how they are going to run the government. And with what resources are they going to run the government? And with what resources are they going to pay to bring about the subsidy? Let's be realistic. Let's tell ourselves the truth. The time for deceiving Nigeria is over. Who was not in government last regimes? Who is not in government? We have seen that, we know the track record of everyone. We know what they have done when they were in government. And they are now crying and shouting because they are outside of the government. Let's be realistic. If we are coming with something new to Nigerians, every Nigerian is going to embrace it, because all of us are here to make Nigeria better and try to do it. Our problem is we, the politicians, and we must clean ourselves and be sincere to ourselves if we want to move this country.
Meanwhile, the Labour Party has disclosed plans to expel its 2023 presidential candidate, Peter Obi, over his involvement in an opposition coalition to unseat President Bola Tinubu. The party's National Publicity Secretary, Bayomi Arabambi, disclosed these in a news chat this morning, saying Obi's continued engagement with the coalition whilst it identified as a Labour Party member was unconstitutional. He disclosed that the party will convene a National Executive Council meeting where the former Anambra State governor will be expelled. He also reiterated the party's unified leadership, noting that they do not have groups in the party. There is only one leadership recognized, and it's that of the national chairman, Julius Abure. Rabambi's remarks followed a 48-hour ultimatum issued to Obi by the Abure-led faction of the party, demanding he formally resign his membership over his bromance with the coalition.
We do not have groups in Labour Party. We only have one leadership under Barrister Julius Abure as national chairman and Alhaji Farouk Umar Ibrahim as the national secretary. Probably maybe the people you are trying to refer to, are those, group of Nenedi Usman, who Mr. Peter Obi has graciously, appointed as the chairman of the Ayam Festival Committee, because we do not have in our party up to today, in our constitution, even with INEC, we do not have anything like a caretaker. And also, Section 222 of the Constitution is very clear that, political parties shall not be headed by any caretaker. They must be duly elected. So our Constitution is in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we do not have group. Secondly, let me make it very clear. We are convening a NEC meeting where it will be expelled. He was on suspension before he now went ahead to do the anti-party activities. You don't go and join a political party, and at the same time, you will still put your leg in another political party. He knows it is unconstitutional for him to belong to two political parties at a time. They have been able to deceive him to their side, and there he shall remain. So a NEC meeting is going to be called shortly, where Obi will be recommended for expulsion, and that will now be confirmed finally at our convention in line with our constitution and in line with most political party constitution. Because when you want to expel an individual who is a member of your party, but that is not doing things in tandem with your constitution, you go to NEC and you expel him, and now recommend the final expulsion to the convention. So Obi will be expelled from our party. He's no more a member of our party. It is not within his right to tell us that I'm still a member of Labour Party, and at the same time, he will not be obnobbing, with what we call, the Yahoo.
To security, 8 people have been killed in a deadly ambush in Kukawa village, Wassa, local government area of Plateau State, following an attack by armed men suspected to be bandits. The incident, which occurred on Monday afternoon, reportedly involved a group of fighters who arrived on motorcycles and claimed they were on a mission to combat bandits terrorizing the region. According to the village head of Kukawa, Ismail Isa Kukawa, the assailants are identified as members of a group known as Hulabi and numbering over 300. Stormed the community under the guise of protecting it, only to unleash chaos shortly after. The village head disclosed that the attackers retreated into the nearby bush after the raid, revealing that on their way out, they killed 2 traders who were heading to the local market. The assault was said to have taken place in border communities shared between Plateau, Bauchi, Gombe, and Taraba State, areas that have witnessed repeated bandit attacks. In the National Assembly, the Senate has rejected allegations by the House of Representatives that it has been stalling legislative progress by delaying concurrence on bills passed by the lower chamber. During plenary today, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and the Senate Leader, Oyemi Bamidele, clarified the Senate's position on the opinion that the chamber has been diligent in attending to bills forwarded by the House. Responding to recent claims that the Senate had failed to act on over 140 House-passed bills, including several sponsored by the Speaker, the Senate Leader disclosed that the Senate considered no fewer than 6 concurrence bills last week. On his part, the Senate President said they cannot joke with concurrence bills from the House of Representatives as they are committed to working together in the interest of Nigeria and Nigerians. The reaction follows a slight tension experienced at the House last week when members of the Green Chamber resolved to suspend further consideration of bills originating from the Senate, citing what it described as persistent delays in legislative concurrence from the Red Chamber. However, the Senate leadership assured the public that the Chamber remains committed to a productive and cooperative relationship with the Green Chamber, underscoring that legislative harmony is essential for national progress. The House of Representatives had a committee investigating the implementation and remittance of the 5% user charge and the pump price of petroleum products for road maintenance today inaugurated 2 stakeholders committees to address issues surrounding the collection and disbursement of the charges. The user charge contained in the Act establishing the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency provides that 40% of the proceeds will accrue to FEMA, while 60% is to be utilized by the state road maintenance agencies. The chairman of the other committee, Honorable Francis Waive, APC Delta, said the 2 committees were expected to look into the Pre-Tax Act and the Post-Tax Act situations and identify possible areas of conflict with the FEMA Act. The lawmaker disclosed that the 5% user charge had over the years not been operationalized. And to the court, the Federal Capital Territory High Court, which has fixed July 17th for ruling on an application filed by the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, seeking to travel out of the country on the health ground. At the resumed hearing, his counsel and Joseph Daudesian told the court he had filed an application seeking an order for the release of his client's international passport by the registrar to enable him to travel for medical attention. The counsel of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Chukudi Enebele, however, filed a counter-affidavit saying granting the request could delay further proceedings. After listening to both parties, the presiding judge, Justice Marian Anen, adjourned the case to July 17 for ruling. The former governor, alongside 2 others, have been prosecuted by the EFCC over the alleged misappropriation of public funds amounting to 110.4 billion naira during his tenure as governor. A High Court of the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) has ordered Inspector General Police IGP Akawode Egbetokun to produce 5 former senior police officers for prosecution in charges of forgery and age falsification. Justice Halilu Yusuf issued the order today after prosecuting lawyer Rima Somte Ezekiel expressed disappointment that the defendants were absent in court despite being served with the charge. Justice Yusuf said, as the prosecutor, he would do all within his powers to ensure that the defendants attend court on the next adjourned date for arraignment. Justice Yusuf subsequently adjourned the case till September 25 for the prosecution to produce the 5 defendants. The 5 retired senior police officers listed as defendants in a 14-count charge brought against them by the IGP are AIG Dowu Owonwa, CP Benethigwe, CP Ukachi Peter Okpara, DCP Obo Ukam Obo, ACP Simon A. Love, SAN. Moving on, medical doctors in government service in Ondo State under the umbrella body of the National Association of Government General and Dental Practitioners, Jamb, have declared a 3-day warning strike starting from next week, Monday. The strike is in response to what the doctors describe as gross neglect of the health sector and the welfare of medical professionals by the state government. The doctors disclosed their grievances with the government in a statement signed by the chairman of the state chapter of the association, Richard Obey, and the secretary, Adekulu Wulabi. Among the grievances include shortage of medical personnel, non-payment of salaries and allowances, unpaid hazard allowances, outstanding promotion arrears, and the association demanded immediate action from the state government to address the issues, including the recruitment of more doctors, full payment of salary arrears and statutory allowances, amongst others. The doctors warned that failure to address the demands during the warning strike will result in an indefinite industrial action. You're watching news at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come. Ibadan begins 21-day mourning for late Olubadan Oba Wolabi Olakuleyin. We will bring him on these when we return. Please stay with us.
Nigeria still has some breathtaking natural areas and national parks. These forests and wild places help maintain healthy ecosystems, clean rivers, rainfall, and even the oxygen we breathe. But if we allow our wildlife to be poached and our forests to be cut illegally, we may lose this forever. So let's do the right thing. Tell your families and friends not to buy illegal bushmeat or illegal timber from our protected forests. It's time to save our wildlife and forests in order to protect our natural heritage. Keep them wild, keep us safe.
Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National